Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Series 19 of the Plant-Based Podcast is sponsored by Queen and Fine Floral Design. Enjoy gorgeous flowers to lift your mood or gift to a loved one with stunning seasonal bouquets, monthly subscriptions, eloquent wedding flowers, and home floral decorations. Queen and Fine bring nature-led designs to your home because flowers really do make people happy. Now serving in Charlotte, North Carolina, including surrounding areas, and in the UK from 2026. Check us out at queenandfine.com and follow us on Instagram at queenandfine.
Hey guys, today we're talking about trees with the ultimate tree experts in the UK. They're fresh from their first exhibit at the RHS Flower Show, and I'm sure you've heard of them. It's Frank P. Matthews. And we've got Steph Dunn-James, director of the company, on the podcast today to talk us through why there could be a tree for everyone wherever you live. Welcome.
Welcome. I'm not going to give it away, but Michael was just literally talking about that, a tree for everyone, no matter where you live. So you have to keep on listening to the end to hear what that very cool idea is. So welcome, Steph. Really looking forward to chatting with you about my favourite subject, which is trees, because I'm a complete tree lover in all ways. So let's just start with kind of what Michael just suggested about, looking at a tree for everyone wherever you live. A lot of our listeners will have very little outdoor space, maybe live in urban environments or even rented accommodation, that kind of thing. So if you've only got a small garden, what kind of trees can you grow without them taking over? Because it has to be the top tree question, I think,
Yeah, and it's one we get asked a lot. I am a firm believer in that there is a tree for everyone out there, whatever size of space you have. There's a tree for every space, season. So it's just about finding the right one. And I think there's a common misconception that if someone has a small place, a small area, that they can't grow a tree, but it's absolutely not true, because we've got some trees that we grow one of the widest range in the country, over 1,000 different varieties of trees, so there is something in there for everyone. And some of the varieties we grow, they only get up to sort of 1.5 meters tall maximum, and also not very wide, only sort of half a meter wide, so they don't take up a lot of space. And there's a wide range that also will grow in patio pots. So also, if you don't have any area to plant into the ground, it doesn't mean that you can't have a tree either.
Okay, that is cool. I knew that we'd get your good kind of input on this. But what about if you are planting a tree in a container? Like, how is that going to work long term?
Well, there's a lot of trees that aren't very vigorous, so those would be the ones to start with. They're the best ones. I mean, when we talk about fruit trees, we grow them on different rootstocks, and we have rootstocks that control the size of the trees. So you can have a very, very dwarf rootstock, like, for example, M27 for apples, or Gisela 5 for cherries, and that restricts the growth of the tree so that you can get a tree that's only sort of, maybe, even if it was planted in the ground, it's only get a maximum of 2 meters tall. Keeping something in a pot, those subjects, you make sure that they can't get their roots out, and they restricts the growth even further. So as long as we make sure that we're caring for that tree in pots, and that's the same as you growing anything in a pot, that it's well watered, that ideally it's fed twice a year. People do forget to feed their plants in pots and not just trees. I tend to recommend a feed in the springtime and the autumn time, as well as the plants shutting down. And it doesn't need to be anything technical, just a general tomato fertilizer, for example, is a really good thing to use. And you're just giving that energy, because it's something restricted in a pot. It's only got what it's growing in to feed itself. So to keep that topped up with nutrients is very important. If you like, sometimes as well, after a few years, you can remove the tree from a pot, take a little bit of the roots off it. That sounds a bit brutal, but literally with a bread knife, lift it out of the pot, cut off the outer inch or 2 inches of the roots, then put it back in with some fresh compost. That sounds, a little bit horrific, but it really works, and it'll give that tree just restricted roots, restricted growth, and allowing it for you to put some fresh compost in, so it freshens up the tree. It's a little bit of a crazy idea, that one, but I trust me, it does work.
I've never heard that before. It's great to get that intel.
I was just thinking, while you were kind of just giving us all this great information and tips, is that where do we find this information? Like, you're obviously at the shows and you have your website and everything. So I'm gonna just kind of go backwards a little bit, because people want to grow trees in pots, but in small spaces, but they know that can be a bit difficult, or they run into trouble later on with all the other things that we're going to talk about. But you are such an expert in this. How can people learn more from you and your company? Like, where can they see you at shows or your website, that kind of thing? Can you tell us a little bit about Frank P. Matthews?
Yeah, of course. So Frank Matthews is one of the largest tree growers in the UK. We are a family business still. We've been around since 1901, and I'm the 4th generation of the business. So it's very much our passion. It's the reason we have such a large range. It allows us to grow something for everyone. We're located in Worcestershire, and we have quite a comprehensive website where we try and put out as much information for the customers as we can. If we also supply garden centres and have quite informative labels on our trees, which, for example, we have a symbol for patio growing, or a symbol for certain soil types, and whether you can hard prune or not prune. So we have lots of information out there on our labels, our website, which is frankpmatthews.com. And on our social media channels, I try and get on as much as I can to just sort of inform people about trees and explain to them about different varieties and different sizes of tree as well. And yes, we attend shows as well. And we're always happy to answer questions. If people have got, I've got this tree, I don't know what to do with it, I don't know how to prune it. We spend a lot of time at shows just literally answering people's questions, and we're really happy to do that, because it can be a scary subject. It's not. People shouldn't be afraid of trees and pruning and things like that, but people can be worried about it, that they might harm the tree, and they shouldn't be. But if you're at all concerned, we're really happy to answer questions. And if anyone wants to know any particular information, pop us a message, and I'll pop something on social media. So really, really happy to spread information out there. Yeah.
That is cool. You've got great social media for the last few years as well, which I love to follow. But also, before we move on, tell us about what you did at Chelsea, actually, because it was your first time doing a big marquee display, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. So first time at Chelsea, we did an 8 by 8 meter display in the floral pavilion, in the grand pavilion. And because we go such a wide range, it was really hard to pick just one subject to show, because we can't show everything that we grow. But I work with my dad, and one of his passions is malus and crab apples and trained fruit. So during lockdown, he actually grafted a malus collection, which is a collection of about 40 to 50 different varieties of malus. When I talk about malus, I mean the ornamental crab apples or ornamental apples. And he grafted this collection always with the view that it would end up at Chelsea one day. And so, last year we just sort of thought, shall we be brave and do it? It was a bit nerve-wracking. But we did. And so malus flower, as we know, in the springtime, usually earlier than Chelsea. So we wanted them to all flower at the same time. We had to cold store them, so delay the flowering. We put them all in pots and pruned them differently, so to show the different forms of the crab apples, because they all have different shapes and sizes. So we put them all into cold store and brought them out at different times and managed to coincide the flowering. So they were flowering by the end of the week at Chelsea, and they looked amazing. And it was a display of sort of, as I said, 40 different varieties. All of different color sizes, different heights in pots. So this is we also were talking about growing in pots. Malus, crab apples and apples are brilliant subjects for growing in pots. And we also included some trained fruit. So when I talk about trained, I'm not like saying, talking about trees going to fetch balls for you. We're talking about beautiful. I thought that might make you laugh.
Funny, Ellen, didn't I?
We're not training them to do tricks. We're training them into different shapes. So some might be familiar with the shape espalier or fans or step overs. So we had some examples of those there as well. So it was a great experience. We've tracked a lot of information, a lot of questions about trees and pots as well, which we're really happy to answer. But it was amazing. Yeah, brilliant experience. And hopefully, we'd love to be able to do it again. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I hope you can do it again.
But it must have been so nerve-wracking, that timing. Like, how did you test the timing the year before? Like,
my dad has a lot of records, notebooks. It wasn't perfect, and hopefully if we do it again we will make it perfect. But my dad's got huge amounts of records of when things flower. So it was half planned, half an experiment.
It went very well by the sounds of it. So,
Yeah, I don't think anything like that's been done at Chelsea before. So it was quite good to bring something new as well.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. You mentioned quite a lot of fruit there, like malus, crab apples, which are amazing. Do you have any suggestions for what people could grow in small spaces or in containers that are, fruit trees? Because I think people are looking for, trees that are productive, so look pretty, you can harvest from them, are good for wildlife, all those kind of things together. So can you give us some varieties that people could grow at home?
Yeah, for sure. So with fruit trees for growing in smaller spaces, you've got two options. So you can either go down the dwarf rootstock option, which we talked about before. So we're talking about for apples, M27, Quince C or Quinceline for pears, Gisela 5 for cherries. And those restrict the roots naturally. So if you want to grow sort of a natural bush type form, those will be worth looking out for. They've got, again, on our labels, patio symbols. So, and we grow them in like a terracotta pot, so it stands out from the range, so people can think, oh yeah, okay, they're a smaller tree. So great varieties for the garden, like apple scrumptious. We've talked about that one before, Michael. It really is as good as it sounds, and it's a great garden favourite, a really easy variety to grow. Another really good one is Red Windsor. So again, really easy, naturally small in its growth, doesn't get pest and disease, a really tasty apple. And then if you want something quite unusual, we've got some red fleshed apples. So when you bite into them, it's pink inside, and that always cause quite a stir. People love to see that, and they taste amazing. They taste like the apples taste like strawberries and berries. So Rosette would be one of those ones, which is really good. From a pear point of view, Concord is a great small pear. Again, really disease resistant, really flavorful and easy to grow at home. And then a cherry Celeste, again, naturally small and kind of quite upright in its growth, in fact. So a good garden favourite. And then the other option you've got with fruit, of course, is growing trained fruit. So that is where we restrict the growth. We tie branches into a certain shape onto a trellis or a wirework or a wall. And that's great space saving, because you can use it either up against the fences or against walls, or as sort of like a partition way to sort of create rooms in your garden with fruit trees. And rather than using something ornamental, you obviously get the lovely flower in the springtime and then the fruit in the autumn. Whether you even use the fruit, because I had someone come up to me the other day and say, oh, actually, I'd really like an apple, which I don't want to eat it myself, but I just want to leave it for the birds. So, I mean, what a lovely idea, leaving fruit out for the birds instead of having it yourself.
Well, you did actually, when we did, because Steph's been on TV a lot this year, Ella, with the Chelsea cover, also on QVC as well. And she said an amazing thing. I think it was with the crab apples, wasn't it? You were like, it's like nature's bird feeder. It's just there, giving the berries to birds. It's amazing. So, I love that. Just before we move on to wildlife, actually, there's one apple, there's one mallow you haven't mentioned, and that is the star-shaped one. You know I'm obsessed with it. Have you ever seen that, Ella?
Only from you, yes.
Oh, yeah, you love that one, don't you?
You've got it listed now. You're selling it. You've got stock of this.
Yeah, it's called Apistar. So Apistar, Apistar, and it is a star-shaped apple. Yeah, so I'll try and remember to send you some, Michael. So it's quite unusual. Yeah, we've got so part of our range, because we have such a massive range of trees, we do have some quite quirky and unusual things. So yeah, star-shaped apples.
The rainbow one.
Yes, striped rainbow. It's a stripy apple as well. So really unusual in its look. Internal color, which is different to normal apples you buy in the supermarket. So yeah, so much choice.
Do they still have the flavor of a lovely crispy apple?
Well, I think they have better flavor than anything you can buy from the supermarket. Actually, if you grow one of them right at home,
good answer. Good answer.
You're always going to get the better flavor if you grow something yourself. Yeah.
I think we should sell that rainbow apple for Pride Month. That would be cool.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, let's do it. We should do that.
That's such a good idea.
Write it down on your notepad, Steph.
Okay, scribbling it down now.
She did. She faked it. That was good.
I didn't look. Rainbow. Pride. Yeah, done.
Don't worry, Steph, because Michael will be on at you every week until next year anyway. So.
I'm so pushy, honestly. I was at a nursery last week and I saw this conifer that looks like a cactus. And they didn't realize how cool it was. But I was just, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop talking about it. I was just
brilliant. It is brilliant.
Look at that, Steph.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. What is that?
So cool.
It's a Chemis of Paris. So okay. I'll show you what it mutated from, actually.
It looks a bit like a monkey puzzle as well.
Yeah, it looks like a small monkey puzzle.
Yeah.
Very, very cool conifer.
This is now a podcast about conifers, just to let you know. That's what it mutated from.
That's so funky. I love it.
I actually think also it looks like a small euphorbia.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
Isn't nature amazing?
Like the cowboy hat.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Oh, so cool. Anyway, back to business.
Back to it.
So which trees are really good for pollinators, and maybe not necessarily down the fruit line of kind of, we've touched on that, but maybe ones that are good for early pollinators, some surprise pollinators as well? Talk us through those if possible.
Yeah, so the beauty of trees is that we've got trees flowering all year or most of the year, and pollinators aren't just around in the springtime. There's a lot of bee activity, for example, out in February, and even sometimes in January if we've had a mild winter, and there's very little else in the garden flowering. So some trees, for example, February flowering trees are really helpful in supporting pollinators. So we've got some really early flowering prunus at that time. We've even got winter flowering prunus like autumnalis, Crystal Falls, which flowers over the Christmas time. That's a prunus. We've got Forsythia, for example, the yellow flower. They're really, supporting these pollinating insects when there's not many perennials, for example, is going to flower at that time. We have to remember that they're still around. They still need feeding. We talked about Mavis. I don't think you can go wrong with crab apples for flower as well. They give back in so many ways, to pollinators and also then to birds later in the year. But gosh, what else? I mean, Hamamelis, that flowers during the winter time. There's not so much pollen on it, but it does still attract a lot of bee activity. So it is important around these times to remember that there's still going to be bees out there looking. And trees are a great subject because we tend to have something flowering at least every month of the year, not just in the springtime. So we've got to remember that. There's heptacodium that's going to less be activity again around at this time of year, but we've got heptacodium flowering at the moment. It's a really gorgeous tree, beautiful bark, and September flowers. Not many other trees flower at that time. So some really unusual things that can help support the pollinators. Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, you've just literally reeling off so many different varieties. So I hope our listeners have got pen and paper, quickly writing them down. And we often think about like planting perennials, for example, for pollinators throughout the year, but maybe not trees so much. But trees provide, the homes and shelter and food, and they're so important.
Nesting,
and so it's not just about perennials or what flowers we're planting. But it is about trees as well, isn't it?
And they, that even with the leaf litter, that's so supportive to so many organisms.
Yeah, absolutely. So, apart from fruit varieties, are there any other exciting varieties that we should be looking out for now, that are coming out, especially patio trees, because they are being advertised quite a lot at the moment. So what's the buzz about right now?
Yeah, so one thing I would say is that you do see patio trees advertised quite a lot, but you've got to really make sure that you're getting them from the right place. I've seen in the past a lot advertised as patio trees, which definitely wouldn't be if they were just left to grow on their own. So make sure firstly is obviously buy a Frank Matthews tree, but if you're not buying from us, buy from a reputable company, because there's a lot of false advertising out there for trees that are smaller than they actually are. Pick a variety that is naturally dwarf. So, and also I would say upright trees, columnar trees. Those are great for small spaces and patios. You get a little bit of height, but they don't take up very much width, which is really handy if you're, growing in a small space. Varieties like we've released a little peach this year called Bonanza. I think you probably will love that name. It is a really tiny, tiny peach. It's only about 50 centimeters tall, but you still get peaches from it, and it's great to growing in the patio.
Peaches always seem so exotic, don't they? But you can grow them easy. Yeah,
easy in this country. Yeah, especially in the south of the country. Further north you go, sort of above Oxford, you need to be careful and shelter them in the springtime. Otherwise, they can get some leaf curl. But really now, as our climate's changing a bit, peach is very much going to be grown in the south of this country now. So. And they are, and we've talked about flavour, but they're just amazing if you grow them at home. Oh gosh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So Bonanza is really fun. So we've got a range of upright trees that are great for patios. For example, a birch called Fastidiata Joes. Really good, it's a lovely shape, upright, and doesn't take up too much space. You can keep that one in a pot. Two great crab apples. We've talked about Manus, I know a lot, but Laura and Aros, again, very upright and really space saving and really fantastic for pots. If you're looking for a flowering cherry, there's a number of naturally dwarf ones. The incisor group are fantastic, but one of my favorites is one called Little Pink Perfection. So it's a really tiny tree. My dad used to have one in our garden in a large pot, and it was must have been there for about 20 years, and it never got taller than me. And it's a double flower, a bit like Kanzan. So double flower, bright pink in the springtime, and naturally small, can keep it in a pot. So it's a great subject. But yeah, I could go on for hours about which variety.
Thing I'm going to ask you about fruit again, apricots, because we bought some yesterday and
we were aghast.
They were absolutely horrible. Like they were dry and icky. But can we grow apricots here in the UK?
Yeah, you can. There's actually quite a lot of apricot plantations down in Kent, commercially grown. So when you see UK grown ones, buy those if you can, because they really have amazing flavour. We're obviously getting towards the end of the apricot season now, so any ones you do see will probably have been imported, and they have to pick the reason. I mean, if you ate them in the country that they originate from, the flavour is so much better. But because they have to we get them imported, they pick them a lot earlier, and that's why the flavour isn't quite as good, sadly. But they are a great subject for growing in gardens, as particularly against sort of sunny walls. You could train apricots against a really nice sunny warm wall, and they're absolutely delicious. You end up with a glut of them, making apricot jam and all sorts of things. So yeah, definitely a subject you can grow in the UK. Yeah.
Ooh.
But also, you probably know the nursery in Boscope called Hoftman. They had grown a lot of cercis, and I was there last week, and oh my God, cercis, I think, is the next big thing. They're so sexy. I saw Zigzag on your stand at National Plant Show. Hearts of Fire is the new one. I almost orgasmed at Eternal Flame that was planted at the Garden of Boscope. Oh my God, talk about cercis for a minute, Steph. Please, please, please.
Cercis are a brilliant subject for small gardens, actually, because we class them, and there's quite a big brief of these, as large shrubs or small trees. So they can be classed in both. They can be naturally shrubby, and you can keep them small. But their foliage colour on cercis is incredible. You have everything from white and green variation to dark purples, bright reds, yellows, lime greens, and they really can be quite sort of vibrant. One of the best trees for summer foliage colour for sure, and autumn colour, but not a massive tree. Yeah, lovely photo. That is a gorgeous photo. Not massive, so they get up to sort of 2 meters tallish. They're also a subject that you can prune if you want to. They really don't mind being pruned. You can in fact cut them back quite hard. If you do hard prune them, it actually makes the foliage even better, even bigger, even more colourful. So if you like a bit of pruning, they're definitely a good subject. But they're a fantastic small tree, and the breadth of choice with them is it's amazing. Yeah, really gorgeous.
I live in North Carolina and we have them everywhere.
Really?
Yeah,
they plant them loads in America. Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere and they're very beautiful.
Do you also have, I remember like Philadelphia, further up, a lot of cornus?
Oh, so
cornus is a nice small tree.
Cornus is I think the state flower. Yeah.
Oh, wow, wonderful. Yeah, we grow a lot of different ranges of cornus, particularly the Cousa types. So those are the ones that a lot of people think of when they think of cornus, flowering ones. You've also got the other sanguinea types, which are great for winter or stem color. So they're bright yellow and bright red stem colors. It's quite it's quite a varied range of tree, actually, cornus, but lovely, naturally small tree. We're talking sort of after 10 years, about 2 to maybe 2.5 meters tall. Beautiful flowers, flower bracts in this sort of late spring into early summertime. They're quite showstoppers, really, aren't they?
They really are, and like whites and pinks, and like you said, they're bracts, but they look just like the tiny little flowers are actually right in the middle of the bracts that are barely. It's a bit like a poinsettia. The actual flowers are the yellow flowers inside that you barely look at, but the white or pink bracts are absolutely stunning. And that's another tree that's grown all around us. There's lots and lots of them, and late spring, honestly, it's absolutely beautiful, and they are lovely, lovely trees. And I'm pretty sure they are the state flower. I'm going to have to look that up.
That's cool. But I love Venus.
The big one. State flower. Yeah.
Venus with a big flower. Last week in Poland, I met Hyperion as well, which is bigger than Venus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh my God. What's that one? Urbaniana.
What's that
one?
I
haven't seen that one.
Oh my God, this one. I've got to Google it quickly.
That one.
It has this really cool flower. Oh my God. You're going to love it.
Michael is currently good.
Show us a photo, yeah.
That one.
Oh, I haven't seen that before. That's got a very unusual flower. I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like one of those.
Can I come? I have to look close. I have to take my glasses off to look now.
It's Florida Urbaniana, and it has this kind of curl in the petals, so they kind of curl upwards. And that is such a cool plant, honestly.
So basically,
I'll have to look that one up. That might be one new one for our range in the future.
That's really interesting. Like the bracts are thinner, but they curl upwards, so it's kind of like in a ball, but long.
A chalice.
A little bit, yeah. Very beautiful. Yeah, that's a very good spot.
That is cool. Right, sorry. Oh my God. Steph, if you're in a garden centre, you're looking for a good tree, what are you looking for?
Well, you're obviously looking for a Frank Matthews tree, but no. Yeah. Aside from that, I think one of the most important things to look for is fresh stock, because trees are a subject that sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes they can be sort of popped on the back fence, and they might be there for a year or so, and they sort of outgrow their pot. And there's a lot of old trees that end up in garden centres, which is a little bit sad, really. But these ones can be, quite root bound by that time. So if you go into a garden centre, look for fresh stock, and you can tell fresh stock because the leaves are glossy. They're not yellowing. They look fresh. They've got no weeds in the pot. They've got really good labels on them, the informative labels that ideally tells you where that tree comes from, about what you're buying, where it should be planted. So good labeling is also really, really important. And also that those trees have been looked after, that they've been, well watered and cared for. And ideally, if they're on from a good garden centre, most trees are. So yeah, fresh stock if you can, really.
Okay, but I guess is it normal to see old stock, because trees probably don't sell that quickly because they are a higher price point? So does that just mean they haven't been maintained well, or what? Why do we see old stock in garden centres?
Well, possibly the garden centre has over-ordered, or tree planting, as much as any gardening, is governed by the weather. So if we don't have a very good spring, we have a very wet time, or we have a very dry time, people will spend less time in their gardens, and therefore they don't, the garden centres don't sell as much stock. That's not the same. That's not just for trees. That's for any stock. And with a lot of stock in garden centres, the smaller things, they have a very obvious shelf life. So once your bedding's finished, you can't sell that. And once perennials are over the year that they've been in there, really they end up being either discounted or thrown away. There is an idea that people keep trees longer because they think because they're bigger and they think they'll look fine next year, that they don't, get rid of them when they should do. And that causes them to hang around a little bit more than they should do. But yeah, they are a more considered purchase for sure. They can be impulse buys if something's amazingly in flower and looking incredible. Those kind of trees walk out the door. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but it doesn't happen very often. And yeah, just fresh stock is the most important thing, really.
That's a really, really good tip, actually. And when you bought your lovely new fresh stock tree from Frank P. Matthews, of course, how do you plant a tree? So actually hear lots of different advice. What's the best time of year? What are the common mistakes people make? How can you avoid them? Can you give us some tips on actually planting? Because I think that's really important, because you've got to get your tree off to a really good start, haven't you? Give it the best chance.
Yeah, for sure. So the beauty of container grown trees, and we grow container grown trees and bare root. Container grown trees can actually be planted at any time of year as long as they're cared for. The best time is the autumn time, because so really from now until Christmas, it gives that tree a really good chance for its roots to settle in, because the ground is still warm. If you're planting this in the ground, that is, the ground's still warm. It can settle in, make some good root. The roots still grow in the winter time. The top will stop, but the roots will still settle in before we go into those spring and summer periods. And so when you buy your tree, if it's container grown, most important thing, and this sounds really stupid, but it does happen, is to take the pot off. If you're planting it in the ground, you laugh, but you'd be surprised. Some people do just take that tree and put it in the pot in the ground. So Make sure you take the pot off. That's, very, very important. Dig a hole that's roughly twice the size of the pot, the tree, the tree container. There's some people say a round hole, some people say a square hole's better. I don't think it really matters, but square can be a little bit better. It forces the roots to go out into the four corners rather than just around in a circle. Remove the soil from that hole and mix it with a little bit of general purpose peat-free compost. Then take your tree, which now doesn't have a pot on, and gently tease out the roots if you can. Just when I say tease, just disturb that root system, because at the moment it's been going around in its pot, and we don't want those roots to carry on spiraling.
Because I think Steph was on the edge of a joke about teasing.
Oh,
it was like, don't tease the roots. Don't take your shirt off in front of it. I'm teasing it. Get it?
I feel like you could do a really good video on that.
Yeah.
Michael literally
Smart.
Take your shirt off and say, "Come on, little tree, look at me."
Brilliant. Right. So where did I get to? You've just got.
We're teasing the roots.
Teasing the roots out. Pop that tree into the hole. Now the tree should go back into the hole and sit at a height that it's going to be level with the soil, at the same level it had the compost in the pot. So no deeper, because we can plant things a little bit too deeper, but we don't want to see that top of the compost of the pot. Then replace the soil with the added compost. Firm it in really well with the back of your heel. If it needs a stake, we can put that in a little bit before we put the tree into the hole, and then water it. So watering is one of the most key things about tree establishment. Trees are really easy subjects to grow in the garden. They're pretty much your most low maintenance thing you can almost grow, as long as you make sure in that first 12 months that they are established really well. And one of the key things are watering them. So particularly if we've had a very, heavy drought like we've just had, make sure you give the tree a bucket a week for if we're in a very dry summer the first year. And one of the most important, another really good important thing is keep the base of the tree free from weeds and grass for at least the first 12 months. Because particularly grass actually is very, very nutrient thirsty, and it'll compete with the tree, and the tree won't get off to the best start it can do because it won't have as much nutrients. There's too much competition. So it's great to grow grass up to the base of the tree as the tree gets older, but for the initial 12 months, even 2 years, if you can, keep that base of the tree nice and free from anything else. And once it's established, then you can plant right up to the stem. But it's really important. You'd be surprised the pictures we get, through from people. They planted a tree and said, my tree's not really growing as much as I thought it would. They send us a picture and they've got grass, up to my waist, growing right next to the tree. And it's, very obvious, there's too much competition there. So that's really important.
That's good. That's a good tip.
That is amazing intel.
I do just have a question about protection, because obviously in some places, there's deer or other things that might come along and have a little go at the tree. How do you recommend protecting a newly planted tree?
Yeah, so if you're, so trees are very tasty, particularly in the middle of winter when there's not much else to eat. So very tasty to rabbits and deer in particular, and sometimes mice as well. So it is really important to protect them, because if they do strip the bark all the way around, that can be fatal for the tree. So at least if you know you're in an area with deer or with rabbits, you can buy lots of different guards. So a basic rabbit guard is very cheap and very worthwhile. And deer, something more substantial is required. So really you need to guard up to about 5 foot if you've got deer around you. with something like a chicken wire, something that's so it just means that they can't get through to the actual stem of the tree. If they have a little nibble of the branches, that's not the end of the world, but the actual stem is where we want to make sure it's really protected. And there's lots of different tubes, biodegradable ones that you can buy. I think chicken wire does a very, very good job. And it's quite easy to get hold of, but yes, definitely guarding your tree is important.
I have 2 great big container pots at the front of my house in Charlotte, in North Carolina. And what I've got, there's something called Trees Charlotte, which is like a charity, and they give away trees at certain times of the year if you live in certain postcodes, and they're all native, which is really nice. So I got a native viburnum and a fringe tree, which now I can't really remember the botanical name of, but it's native to the south. And they're in these great big pots. The pots are super high. And we have loads of deer, but we're in an urban environment, so they don't really tend to come like towards pots or anything. They kind of hang around on the banks where there's grass and other trees. And anyway, we've got like the Ring door camera, and it's buzzing away, and I'm thinking, well, there's no one there. Like, so I look outside the window. It's literally a deer having a little go at a tree in a huge pot,
having a go
at the front of the house. I was like, so chicken wire was the only answer, and I never expected they would be that cheeky.
They are, they are so cheeky now, aren't they? Gosh, and so what's really funny here is on the nursery we do have some deer and we have rabbits, and they're very particular about the type of tree that they want. So they'll walk down a row of trees, and we've got fields and fields of trees here, and they'll just nibble the certain variety that they like. So there's obviously that I don't know if it's the amount of sugars in there or the certain taste, but they are very selective. Yeah, so you've obviously got a really tasty one.
Yeah, like us. They know what food they like.
Yeah.
Have you got like a watering bag that's been very successful on social media in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been. So that is one thing that we sell to help people, and we've just started selling it actually. So it is a large industrial, it is plastic, but it is reusable bag, which has some very tiny holes in the back and bottom, and you wrap it around the tree, and it's got a zip, so zip it up around the stem. And fill it with water, and it can take something like I think it's like 50 or 60 liters. So you top it up, and gradually it drips into the base, so it gives it a really steady flow of water. Because if you're watering once a week, you can give a bucket of it's great for the tree, but a lot of it will run away or evaporate. So a nice steady drip is really helpful, and pretty low maintenance as well. And then you can use it again on another tree. But they've been so popular. Yes, the watering bag is so popular.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So there's the water is like around the stem, or there's an inner sheath that covers the stem from the water.
There is an inner sheath, yeah. So yeah.
Cool. So I have a medlar tree on the allotment, and it somehow managed to kind of train itself because it's going exactly where I want it to go. I don't know how, but it's like I had a little chat with it, and it's gone, okay, I'm going to train myself, almost like Gordon. It's kind of at the back, and it's really hard to get water up to it. So that sounds amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'd probably then once we start to get rain again now, September, we're looking, we're much. There's more rain coming. You can remove it, so I wouldn't use it leave it there on all year, but just for the summer, and particularly if you're going to be away, like if you have an allotment and you don't go there every day, that's a really good idea.
Exactly. And it's been so dry, in North, so dry. So that sounds a really good.
I think that's important, that established trees still need the care, don't they?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Well, this kind of leads us on to our next question, which is really, what do you see as some of the most resilient trees for the future? And I know we've talked about, like some things we can now grow that we couldn't before. I know it's not quite a tree, but I'd love you to touch on Lagostromia as well, because at the different trade shows I've been at the last couple of weeks, Lagostromia is really a now plant in the same way as Cercis. So what trees are we now seeing are perhaps, if you could even give us a top 3 of some of the trees that are really the most climate proof in Europe?
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about Lagostromia to begin with. The reason you've seen a lot, obviously, is because it's a summer flowering tree. Then it does look really quite impressive when it is in flower, doesn't it? We have everything from really bright, vibrant pinks to sort of purpley colours. It's a tree that we couldn't really grow in this country, 20 years ago. And because we've got these drier summers, it's warmer, and we don't have so many winter chill events, it is becoming a tree that we can now grow in this country. I think it's still best restricted to south of Oxford for the moment, because I think some of the north, and we still haven't quite transitioned that much, further north up the country. I'm sure it's coming.
White ones
very pretty.
Yeah, they're so pretty. They call the crepe myrtle the luxstrom. They're little sort of crinkly petals, gorgeous. So that's one. And we mentioned peaches before. Before we couldn't really grow peaches in this country unless they were undercover, and now in the south they're much more successful. Apricots as well. In the last 20 years we've now been able to grow a range of apricots, even commercially. So they're fantastic. We partnered with the RHS on a climate change project over the last 5 years, and we're just coming to the end of it. So we will be getting the results shortly, but a couple of ranges of trees that have come really well out of that for being more resilient to climate change and things like pollution and things like that. And great for garden trees are thorns. So ornamental thorns, crataegus, not very, people don't really think of them for gardens, but we have some really amazing ones which flower like dark pink flowers and double flowers. They're not particularly thorny, these ornamental ones, but they're great small trees. Great small trees, so sort of 3 meters max. And their root system is very resilient, as is the top part of the tree. So it means that when we get prolonged drought or wet, they can come strongly through those times. And that's what we're really looking at with our climate at the moment, isn't it? All these extremes. So crataegus was one that really did well. And malus as well. We've talked about malus so much, but it's so bomb-proof. These trees are little ornamental trees, ornamental crab apples. They really, really grow well in a number of different soils, sites, and through some extremes in climate. So we should look at plants or trees that are able to cope with less harsh winters. I'm not saying that we'll never get a harsh winter again, but they are becoming less than they used to. But also trees that are more resilient when we get extremes. So those two subjects would be great. Yeah.
Wait, I just had a thought when we're talking about the climate. And
what do you think?
He's so cheeky, I can't tell you.
What you got?
I used to work in a community garden in Norwich in Norfolk called Grapes Hill Community Garden, and they have an apricot, and it was trained up the wall. I just remembered. So we often say about obviously growing in the south, but Norfolk is one of the driest counties. In the UK.
East Anglia as a whole.
East Anglia as a whole. Yeah, and actually the temperature can be quite warm, but the one thing you have to consider when growing anything like that you do need shelter because it's quite windy. Even in the city, even inland, it is quite windy. But yeah, I just suddenly remembered that it was a beautiful apricot and growing against the wall, really well sheltered. So I think it's really good to experiment with stuff.
Totally.
Just what does grow for you where you are. So yes,
exactly. Yeah, look around at other people's gardens as well when you're driving down the roads. What's looking good? What is that tree over that person's head? Fence. Don't be too nosy neighbours, but what's growing well in the local area is important.
In some places, like you kind of have your own microclimate. It's almost like in London. Sometimes when you walk around the streets, you see some incredible plants. Imagine like trees and plants growing. You think that you couldn't possibly imagine that growing in London, but because there's its own microclimate with trees and houses, you can really experiment and just grow something a little bit different.
That's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that leads me on to I want this episode to be achievable for everyone to grow a tree. But what about people that are only growing houseplants? How do you feel about bonsai, Steph? I might showcase a new idea to you in a moment.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. But yeah, I'm not an expert in bonsai, but there are a lot of great bonsai subjects that aren't necessarily houseplants. You know, Acer palmatums are a classic. You can even grow things like wych elms and elms and all sorts of interesting
subjects.
But
the Zelkova. A lot of people grow
Zelkovas. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's all bonsai is all about root constriction and root pruning, and then that also leads on to pruning on the top as well. So yeah, there's a huge amount that you can do. Restricting the roots on patio growing trees, you know, you're creating a sort of not a bonsai, but you are sort of creating a large bonsai tree, if that makes sense, because you're still restricting the roots. So yeah, bonsai, I mean, it's not just houseplants, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, I was thinking about bonsai, and I was thinking because mostly they're happier outside, and we see lovely displays of bonsai that are outdoors. And I was thinking, bonsai could be really nice in a window box. And I said to you girls in the window box, and they're like, well, no, but you need to restrict the roots. But then why not have the bonsai in its original pot sunk into the window box, and then you've got this miniature tree garden just outside your window? Next big trend, yeah?
I think
I love it.
Yeah. Like, give it a go.
Shaman, that is cool.
Yeah, you should definitely start. Give it a go.
What do you call it? Like miniature tree.
No. A box of bonsai.
Bonsai box.
No, something about arboretum. Window box arboretum. I'm nearly there. I need another hour.
Yeah. Steph, I think you should feel sorry for me, because when we finish this podcast, this is all I'm going to hear about for the next.
my bonsai balcony.
Oh no, forest.
That's
forest,
nice.
Forest.
No,
bonsai balcony.
That's nice.
Oh.
No,
yeah, but what do you reckon? Cool idea, yeah?
Yeah, nice idea. I love it. Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, I'm out. You're in charge.
Is that it?
Yeah, bye.
Oh, mic drop.
He's done his bit. He can go now. Steph, thank you so much. This has been really good fun and so educational as well. Where can our listeners find you? Website, social media, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so our website is frankpmatthews.com, and we're at Frank P. Matthews Trees on social media. So yeah, check us out. If you've got any questions, let us know, and we'd love to have everyone as followers. So, and then you can all tell me what kind of videos you want to see about trees or reels, I should say.
The more reels or videos or whatever about trees, the better, as far as I'm concerned. They literally help to keep us alive, don't they?
They sure do.
That is, the main part of it that we kind of forget, that we grow them for prettiness and we grow them for this and that, but actually we need trees to stay alive. So the more trees, the better. Absolutely. And now is a perfect time to start planting as well, over kind of autumn, winter. So go and check out Frank P. Matthews. Thank you so much, Steph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Queen and Fine Floral Design are sponsors of the Plant-Based Podcast for Series 19. We provide nature-led designs for your home, office and events, because flowers really do make people happy. Check us out at queenandfine.com and follow us on Instagram at Queen and Fine.